Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Astrology on Instagram. I'm Rod Chang. Every week, I will invite one of my colleagues to join me for the weekly transit talk. Well, today I invite one of my good friends, Kenan Yasin, to join me. Oh, Kenan already. Wow, it's really professional. Star for the astrology, and also he's very well known in Turkey. And so today we are going to talk about Mars retrograde. Hello, cousin.
Look, hey,
Well, I think because of this Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde, and Neptune is about to change the direction too. So I think that there's a lot of things we need to prepare. Oh my God, I keep seeing the people join on the live is keep increasing. I know these are all your fans. Oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah, you know what's happening in the world is truly fascinating to watch these days.
Agree. Agree. Yes. Yes. I think that especially what happened yesterday, that was kind of wow. Things is like we really couldn't catch up really. So what are we talking about is the in the political, right? The yesterday the South Korea president suddenly declared the martial law, and then he left in 5 hours later. That was kind of a huge U-turn. And then, to be honest, I know if we blame it to the Mercury retrograde, that sounds too easy to to maybe people will think about that. Do you have anything else to talk about why you always blame such a things on Mercury retrograde? But to be honest, to be very, very honest, the first things I think when we see the he declared martial law, just like you really want to do this during Mercury retrograde?
No. But South Korea's chart was particularly striking, wasn't it? The sixth degrees Scorpio rising in South Korea's chart.
Yes. Yeah, you are right. Yes, if we look at the chart, that the South Korea has, if we use midday, South Korea has the 6 degree Scorpio, and also their north node is 8 degrees Scorpio.
Really close, yeah.
And so this Mars at this moment, Mars is slowing down, and depend on how we judge the stationary. Some astrologer will use the degree when the Mars arrives 6 degree Leo as the beginning of the stationary. Some astrologer doing that. That means Mars is already start to retrograde something like a week or something. And yeah, I don't mind to do that way, but I personally prefer to count as the minutes for Mars. But anyway, that's also okay. So the Mars stationary, at least we say Mars slow down, and the martial law is really have a Mars flavor too. When I first hear the news, I was like, is that going to have a war? We know the area is very unstable, especially a couple months ago. North Korea leader announced that their relationship with South Korea is kind of totally cut off, and they think they are kind of use it as treat them as a enemy country, as an enemy. So we are just like, what happened? And then when I went to read his declaration, wow, is that right reason? Because your parliament against you, so you call them traitor and then support the enemy, so you want to declare martial law. I think this is quite interesting. How do you see this event?
I don't know. You know that, but this is Mars. What it is? Our first topic, our main topic is Mars today. By the way, Rod, did you know that in our previous broadcast we also chose Mars as the topic? I wonder. I wonder what is that. What?
That will remind you and I we have working harder. No.
No, talked about Mars conjunct the North Node, and today
Yes.
our focus again. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if Mars has something. It's
Yeah,
hard
that's between
to tell me.
that's for us, especially yesterday when we typing, remember? And
Yeah,
I make a typo. I say we mainly focus on Mars in retrograde, but I type mainly as a man rather than MAIN, the focus on. And he say, you want to talk about men of the Mars or the major things? I say, oh, sorry, it's a typo. It's a major thing.
and how about you? How's everything going? I see you have been pretty busy, running around as usual.
Yes, yes, a lot of work to do, and especially I think at the end of a year, we are always astrologer always being invited everywhere to talk about what's going to happen, next year, and we know that is like major things. But I think that's a start with Mars retrograde. So Mars, as I know, Mars will start retrograde exactly retrograde from the 6th of December on the Friday, and it will retrograde until 24th of February next year. It will end at 17-degree Cancer. So during this time, Mars will change in sign. So I think for both Leo and the Cancer major theme are very important. So could you give us a little bit your study
Yeah,
about this Mars retrograde?
thank you for inviting me again, Rod. I really appreciate you. We have a lot to talk about today. We are transitioning into a very, very interesting period. Mars retrograde, that it's starting this week on December, maybe 8th. It will begin its retrograde in Leo. And it will stay in Leo until January 6th and then move into Cancer and continue its retrograde there. The retrograde will last until February 24. You mentioned that, but so we are looking at a quite long period ahead, and also we will be starting the new year with Mars retrograde. It's really fascinating, I think. Let's see what lies ahead for us. Mars will also form aspect with significant planets, which could bring major shifts to global events. Additionally, Mars has no dignity in Leo, in terms of dignity. As a nocturnal planet, it won't feel comfortable in a fire sign that belongs to the diurnal sect. At least in Cancer, it will gain triplicity rulership, Toretos triplicity rulership, but it will still be in a debilitated position in terms of dignity.
Mm.
And honestly, the picture ahead doesn't look very promising. you know,
Oh.
yeah, Bonatti states that retrograde planets are in a state of discord and contradiction within their own nature. So this is exactly what it is. From the Earth's perspective, the planet appears to stop and move backward. During these times, the matters associated with the planet become more prominent. And of course, we also need to consider the nature of the sign it occupies. So maybe now, Mars will begin its retrograde in Leo, and Leo represents something else for us. For example, during its retrograde in Leo, it reminds us to steer clear of anger.
Mm.
Ego-driven behaviors. It might
Yes.
also be a great time to revisit and revisit hobbies we have neglected in the past, maybe.
Mm.
And we need to avoid ambition, egoistical actions, or impulsive anger. And, our personal desires and wishes will likely take center stage.
Mm.
To try to balance this energy. And also in terms of health, medical astrology, Leo is associated with our back and the heart. Additionally, Mars is directly related to hemoglobin and blood levels. And these areas require our attention during these periods. And we should also keep an eye on the performing arts and entertainment in industries as they may be affected, especially during the New Year's celebrations, alcohol or something, celebrating things which will coincide with Mars retrograde. We need to be cautious about overing, the indulgence in drinks or
Mm.
food, and be mindful of potential poisoning, particularly
Mm.
blood poisoning. Yeah. It's
Wow.
really necessary for us, for Turkey, I think. I don't know about other
Not
countries.
many people drinking there, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm more worried about this side because we have a very big famous name about the binge drinking quite a lot. Especially, this is the holiday season for the Western world, So people was like look from the next 2 weeks schedule. I have at least like a 5 or 6 catch up with a friend or something. Then that would be a lot of drinking and a lot of party. So I think you are right that Mars is during the Mars retrograde and the Mercury also retrograde at the same time. So these kind of things that really need to worth us to pay attention. I like what you talking about the anger.
Yeah.
The anger, that is the Mars things. And we can see when we feel frustrated and we have to be honest, the retrograde Mars, it gives us a warning about how we focus on our anger, how we express our anger. For example, I can relate this to what happened yesterday in South Korea.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
president himself feel frustrated about his own situation with the parliament. Parliament is like a big is occupied by opposition party, so and all his policy cannot execute, and all the bill has been killed. So he was so upset. Eventually, he was so mad. He's declared a martial law. That is the one way to express your frustration. That okay, if you don't want to support me, now I'm going to be, doing this, and that is pretty wrong because now he faced impeachment from the parliament.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of mundane astrology, absolutely. As you know, the general themes of Mars retrograde include military activities, violence, fires, and on the other hand, they also related to issues such as sexual problems.
Ooh, talk about more about that.
Problems, the malefic one, and it's associated with the masculine energy and also murders,
Mm.
just related challenges, suicides, and maybe depression. We can mention about this depression. So, Rod, how can we stay balanced in all these matters, all these challenges?
That is very interesting, to be honest. How we focus on this, to be honest, the about the inner frustration, about the things we couldn't achieve at this moment. We can easily blame other people. And very interesting, because located at the 6 degree Leo, there are one very interesting two. One is a very interesting fixed star called Asli Borealis, and this is a two star in the Aslis. It means donkey, and in the Bible story, I think was the story about a prophet. A wise man blamed his own donkey for not moving forward. Interesting, right? For not moving forward. So he was very angry and he beaten this donkey. He hit the donkey, said, "Come on, move forward." But this donkey refused to move forward until the moment another angel appear and tell him, "You should not blame your donkey. I block your route because you should not go there. You should slow down and think carefully." This is very interesting. So how we face our frustration and anger, blame other people is always most easy way. Blame other people, say your fault, not my fault. But I think this Mars retrograde, yes, in one sense is we will accuse ourselves.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if we say that as a take it back and re-examine why the environment and why ourselves refuse to move forward. So we can examine those codes, and then try to understand the reason we couldn't move forward. So that's frustration. Yes, it's frustration. I totally understand, and it could trigger the anger issue and something. But if we examine it, it's not going to be honest, it's not going to maybe easily make you feel better. But you at least you understand the things. And this is what I would suggest for
Yeah.
us is like when you face those anger, frustration for not for why we couldn't move forward, that would be more productive.
Wow, great contribution. Thank you. Many thanks for
Thank you.
this Bible story. Wow, amazing. Thank you, Rose. Thank you. You know, yeah, I totally agree with you. Staying calm will be quite challenging, but we need to learn to hold ourselves back from being overly aggressive and focus on acting with thoughtfulness. But before we dive into these topics, I'd like to share some personal thoughts,
Yeah,
if you don't.
please.
Thank you. Because, yes, as astrologers, as mundane astrologers, we often focus on global events. But I'd like to add a personal touch to this conversation because,
Please.
there are certain questions that everyone is curious about. What does retrograde mean? Or one of the famous questions, should we be afraid of retrograde? Should we avoid starting anything during a Mercury retrograde new thing? So, and of course, everyone wonders what kind of problems will this retrograde bring. So, but I want to approach this from a slightly different angle, aspect, and share a few unique perspectives. I'm not really afraid of retrogrades. In fact, I believe they can lead to great results when used wisely. And this doesn't just apply to Mars. It's something I'd say about all planetary retrogrades. So
Yeah.
retrograde excellent times to pause and reflect, to complete unfinished tasks, or to revisit and refine things that require another round of effort. For example, think about TV series that
Mhm.
air weekly episodes. I follow them, Rod, and I've noticed that shows that start during a Mercury retrograde often end up running for a longer time.
Oh, interesting.
With other TV series, yeah, when it comes to comparison with others, isn't it fantastic? I think it's a great thing, I think, because of course we can't say such positive things about Mars retrograde, because as the name, as Mars represents action,
Mm.
and when our action seems to go backwards, it's likely trying to walk backward on a straight path, and it creates a certain difficulty. So it feels a bit like. How can I describe it? Swimming against the current, swimming against going
Mhm.
against the flow. So but still, it's a great time to turn inward. I believe that if we understand Mars nature, we can learn to manage it effectively. And of course, we all need to know which house the Mars transit will occur within our charts. After all, every interpretation will play out on a personal level, depending on its connection to our own charts. But today, um, I'd like to share a few interesting thoughts. My first book,
Tell us more. Tell us more.
in Turkish, haritanın üzerine çıkmak. Maybe I can translate in English. Rising above the chart. It explores our charts tell us its commitments, so to speak. For example, in the book, I discuss how we might say that for example, having Mars in 12th house could indicate,
Mhm.
for example, sleeping problems, because the
Mhm.
the 12th house is connected to sleep. It's like moving from the 12th house to the first
Uh-huh.
house, and where we take out first breath, and wake up. Now, now someone with Mars is in 12th house might struggle with sleep, and as Mars represents action, and while the 12th house is more about stillness and retreat, in fact, in terms
Yes.
of astrology, Saturn finds joy in this house, joyfulness, aligns with its nature. So what if this person tries exercising before bed, for
Oh, that
example?
sounds interesting.
Yeah, this is where experimental astrology comes into play. Let's give it a try. When the person engages in a physically demanding activity before sleep, and they fate Mars in that house, and the sleep issue could be resolved in this process. But the problem might not be entirely resolved, but it's the nature of an experiment. And the most of the time it works, Rod. so I compiled these kind of experiences in my first book. For example, one of my clients experienced a Mars retrograde in her fourth house, and the fourth house, represents the home.
Yes.
And during that time, she renovated her kitchen.
Lovely.
Yeah. She couldn't use her kitchen for almost 3 weeks, and it caused some challenges. The rest of the house was full of mess, full of dust and chaos. But by the end of those 3 weeks, she had a brand fresh new kitchen.
Yeah.
So she managed the Mars transit. She managed the Mars transit under her own control. Isn't that amazing? On the flip side, Rod, maybe she could have spent time worrying about what might happen to her home.
Yeah.
So she could have thought, I'm sure the faucets will burst during this retrograde, or there's probably going to be an issue with my roof, with my door, with my neighbor.
Yes.
Instead, she flipped the narrative. She proactively caused her own disruption, her own and use the Mars transit with intention on her own terms. I don't know, but maybe I have so many examples like this. I have collected a lot of experiences. But now the question is the important question, I think, because the question that usually comes up is this: couldn't this just have been a Mars transit? What about when it's retrograde? So,
Yes.
during retrograde periods, they say you shouldn't start anything new, right? So, well, that information doesn't always apply so strictly, I think, because
Okay.
our charts are a whole system, and we must look at the whole chart,
Exactly.
not the dignity of Mars, its placement, and etc. But there are many parameters. Although there are many parameters to consider, let's go back to my client's experience. Yes, she renovated her kitchen during a Mars retrograde, and in the next Mars retrograde road, she sold her house.
That
Gap
is
between
really
the two.
interesting. That is a really interesting.
Yeah, roughly 22 months, in this way.
Yes.
I think, I don't know. But it reminds me Martin Schulman's works. I really
Yes.
Schulman's perspective on these topics. Schulman views retrogrades as wormholes, describing them as gateways, time gateways. Yeah. Retrogrades in our natal charts, or transiting retrograde planets create time tunnels or time portals in our lives, and they allow us to make quick shortcuts, or escape routes between events that are about to happen or have already occurred. Retrogrades can create time illusion.
Yeah.
They disrupt our plans, cause delays, and
Mhm.
force us to repeat tasks, which makes us spend more time. But in another way, they bend time, allowing us to create a different reality for our,
Yes.
yeah, a different time plane altogether. So that's why I believe we need to evaluate retrogrades from a different perspective. How about you?
I,
I don't know.
to be honest, it's really inspiring. It's really inspiring. I think this kind of a time is not linear.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to see as a retrograde, and they use it when they created a loop. And I like the word about the wormhole because it really sums up about this kind of time's not linear. So when it's retrograde, it gives you a time to go another
Yeah.
direction. Not only retrograde world, like you can go up, you can go down, you can go left, you can go right, but you go somewhere else, not linear, not just forward. And it is very interesting that when we can see things from different way, we can really see things from different way and ask ourselves, is there other possibility to achieve our goal, or maybe our goal is not really there.
Yeah.
So I review, I revise, I reflect during this time about our action, about our action plan. So I think thank you for bringing that because to be honest, last time I read Martin Schumann was what,
Uh,
15 years ago or 20 years ago. I totally forget about this idea. But thank you for bringing it out. And that is fantastic. It's amazing. I think this Mars retrograde is not the only one because it's one after another. Because we have the Mercury and then Mars, and then by the next year when Mars nearly finished its retrograde, Venus and the Mercury started again.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they all lines up.
Okay. Let's get back to our main topic. Okay, we are a mundane astrologers. Okay, for instance, the events South Korea were quite
Yeah,
fascinating, and you know that before that, significant incidents took place in Syria.
yeah.
We haven't officially entered the retrograde period yet,
Nope.
have we? Because, however, we are already under its influence. We need to
Yes.
clarify. um, and if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a bit about the late Aaron Sullivan's work.
Oh, how could we talk about retrograde planet motion without mention her name?
Yeah. She was really cute, you know that. Um, I'd like to touch on the late Aaron Sullivan's insights into how Mars retrograde unfolds, because in her book, she mentioned the retrograde planets. I highly recommend to anyone. She explains these concepts beautifully, and she describes it as a how can I pronounce it? Cocoon process.
Ah, cocoon.
Like
Yes.
caterpillar and butterfly.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly, correctly.
Don't worry, I'm not English neither. No.
But but she offers examples of how this phase allows for inner transformation and
Mm,
growth.
mm.
Most of the time, outer planets form a trine with the sun after they enter retrograde. As
Yes.
outer planets go retrograde when they move opposite the sun. Uh,
Yes.
that's why the trine they make with the sun during this period is significant. Uh,
Mm.
however, Mars behaves a bit differently. Mars forms its trines with the Sun both before and after its retrograde period.
Hmm.
So, for other planets, the trine with the Sun happens about 12 days, approximately 12 days after they go retrograde. But Mars
Hmm.
completed its trine
Yeah.
before going retrograde. So on November 27th, Mars was at 5 degrees
Hmm.
Leo, while the Sun was at 5 degrees Sagittarius,
Touch.
and
Yeah.
trine occurred. Interestingly, just a day later, on November 28th, uprisings broke out in Syria. And Aleppo, Aleppo
Yeah.
airport was seized.
Yes.
Let's think of these dates as part of a cocoon process.
Yeah.
So, like the cocoon where the caterpillar waits and transforms before becoming a butterfly, and starting from the end of the November, we enter a waiting phase. And like being inside a cocoon in matters related to Mars. Um, this is because Mars formed its trine with the Sun during this time. So the cocoon process will last as long as the degrees Mars retrograde taught. You have already mentioned at the beginning of our conversation. These degrees range from 6 degrees Leo to 17 degrees Cancer, and people should check their charts, especially those with indicators at these degrees in their natal charts, will be significant affected by this cocoon process, and they can analyze the indicators in their charts within an orb of about 1.5 degrees of these retrograde degrees. And on February 24, Mars retrograde will end, and approximately 12 days later, on March 7, the Sun will be at 17 degrees Pisces, while Mars will be at 27 degrees Cancer. Another trine will occur around this time, approximately 12 days after Mars goes direct. And this marks the phase when the cocoon begins to unravel. And from this point on, as Mars moves forward from 17 degrees Cancer to 6 degrees Leo, this period will hold significant meaning for us. Whether we experienced during the retrograde will start to make more sense during these new dates. So we need to analyze, we need to observe these dates. This phase will serve as a guide for us, as a guide for us. Overall, in summary, between December 8th, 2024, this year, and February 24th, next year, 2025, any issues we faced related to past Mars matters will now find resolution during the forward-moving phase between 17 degrees Cancer and 6 degrees Leo. So I have prepared a table. Maybe you show
Yeah.
I prepared the table these dates, and which I shared in my last posts and on Facebook also.
Yes.
Our viewers can refer to it, these periods when and I also mentioned the Mars is out of bounds are especially significant because we
Yes.
will be more aggressive during these times.
Definitely, yes.
A lack of control, may emerge. And I also highlighted these dates in the table. And additionally, maybe Mars will station before beginning its retrograde motion, and again when it transitions out of retrograde. The days when Mars is stationary often coincides with fascinating thank you so much for sharing this one. These fascinating events in the world, I think. The Mars as stationary phases are particularly meaningful for identifying symbolic patterns. We should also pay attention to these Mars as times. And advertisement time, Rod. in the upcoming
Back.
of Time Lords magazine, in the upcoming issue of Time Lords magazine, I've written about my research on Mars as phases and the data I've collected so far, and it will be published in the new issue. Let me share a few examples. For example, during Mars S times, worker strikes
Mm.
tend to become more prominent on these days, since Mars represents work and workers.
Yes.
Strike symbolizes work coming to halt, and there are even more fascinating stories. As you know, Mars is often referred to as sword, the sword of justice.
Yeah.
So one of the days, it's really funny. One of on one of the days when Mars was stationary, a parrot was called upon as witness in a Michigan court case. You know, because the parrot was the only eyewitness to a murder.
Oh, oh my God.
Yeah, I have many examples like this. For example, a truck carrying millions of bees overturned on the exact day Mars
Uh-huh.
was free. The connection between bees and Mars is truly fascinating, right?
Yeah, that's but because bee is one of a Mars
Right?
with an insect, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this, along with my commentary, will be published in our new magazine. I'm eagerly looking forward to it. I just
Wow.
want to
Thank
say.
you, Kenan, because I know you are a great astrologer who treat all the studies seriously. Unlike, well, to be honest, even myself, sometimes when we give a talk, oh, I find something, yeah, I talked before. But when I invite Kenan to give a talk, he say, I need to prepare because he never recycling his talk. So you take it serious. So with the CIA, Cosmic Intelligence Agency, your new article is going to publish in the new issue. And this is research about the Mars stationary
Thank
retrograde.
you.
That is
Well,
so interesting. Yeah,
please, next issue, next topic, we need to mention about this, Pluto and Mars opposition.
yeah.
What do you think about opposition?
That is, that because they are opposite before retrograde when Mars enter into Leo. And then when Mars retrograde, Mars will bump into but will facing it again. And then when it move forward, it will come again. So three hits. So we need to do, yeah, I think it will be very important.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
what's
Previously,
your view about this Pluto opposition?
uh, I noticed that the Donald Trump and the other
Oh
leaders
dear.
chart. As you know, while Mars retrogrades through these degrees, it will form specific aspects. Notable the Mars-Pluto opposition. Previously, on November 3rd, Mars
Yes.
29 degrees
Oh,
Cancer
you're right.
opposite. Yeah, the US elections took place on November 4th.
Yes.
And right under this opposition. However, the full impact of this aspect has yet to manifest, I
Not
think.
yet.
Uh,
Nope.
yeah. For instance, the President-elect Donald Trump has not yet taken the oath, oath of office. I don't know how can I pronounce it, but the is
Um,
scheduled for
inauguration.
January.
Yeah, in January. I think usually it's 20, but we never know.
On that day, the sun will have, just entered 0 degrees Aquarius,
Yes.
0 degree, and Mars will be retrograde at 24 degrees Cancer. This date is particularly noteworthy
Yeah.
because this it's on that day. Trump was previously, attacked, aligned closely with those on his upcoming inauguration day. And
Yeah.
this suggests that week could be quite. I don't know how can I say, but we will have to wait and see how events unfold, Rod. I don't know, and also
Definitely.
JD Vance's progressed moon, in at 6 degrees Aries. JD Vance progressed moon, again 6 degrees, and Mars retrograde, will be at 6 degrees Leo formula,
Leo, yeah.
and we are about to experience very, very interesting times.
Yes, indeed. So I double check the calendar, and for coming up, we have one hit opposition around December, right? Around I think 12 December. Another one is around early January, just right after New Year, just right after New Year, and another one the end of April. So those are hits of a Mars opposite Pluto will be evolved like okay, for beginner, this is a can I just give us a very interesting example? Usually when you realize those outer planet forming the opposition or they form the aspect during the retrograde or around the retrograde period, they will repeat several times. Some will even go 5 times.
Yeah.
Some of them will go 5 times. So you better keep an eye on what happened in the beginning. For example, like can I give an example? The first hits, the first opposition was during the election of a United presidential election. So we ask ourselves, what happened in my life in the early November? And then it will have some important or interesting evolve during the like maybe later
Yeah.
December and the early January. And then the final hit, they were won in the late of April. So that was the time, the things, yeah, the things we are going to carry forward. So during that time, that will be very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing us. Honestly, Rod, honestly, we don't fully understand Pluto in Aquarius yet. We have no clear
Nope.
idea of the effects it might bring. Even if we look back at its previous transits, those were such distant times that adapting them to our modern era
Mm.
is it's incredibly challenging. So, considering the speed of modern technology, we are likely to witness some truly fascinating events ahead.
Yeah.
I think so. As a former genetics, as a former genetics, I believe that Pluto moving into Aquarius and Mars retrograde period will bring medical discoveries to light that were not shared before.
Ooh.
We encountered some news has already started to appear. For example, recent advancements, new advancements, new allows us to grow,
Hmm.
regrow teeth. Regrow teeth
Yes.
that we're told to never grow. Never grow
Yes.
back. So Mars, known as the sword of justice, maybe can also bring attention to people who were wrongly judged. Maybe
Hmm.
uh,
Oh, that's very
yeah,
interesting.
in the
Yeah, that could.
in the past story, maybe you encountered that because, for instance, there is a story about a man in the USA. Who spent 20, I don't know how can I, maybe 27 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. So, thanks to new DNA technology, he was,
Ah.
yeah, he was released in, I didn't clearly remember. He released that 2013, I think,
Hmm.
2013. But
Hmm.
I mean, we might see more stories like this in the near future, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, really interesting. Well, thank you, Kenan. I mean, you always inspire us and then really bring the different perspective. It's not, to be honest, and those things that you only can find out when you do a serious study. Well done, Kenan. Well, thank you, Kenan. And then, Kenan, is there any, any new event in your school?
No, no, not yet. No. We are, we have to enter the new year properly.
Okay. Okay, but your new article will publish on the Time Lord magazine very soon. So anyone who is interested about the Mars retrograde, looking forward, keep an eye on the Cosmos Intelligence Agency CIA's magazine, Tyler magazine. Kenan's new article will appear there. And then, well, thanks Kenan for joining us. And then next week, I invite our friend Israel Ajose to join me to have a quick chat. And but that would be on the Astrological Association channel. And so, well, looking forward to see everyone. Thank you again. Thank you, Kenan, for taking your time. And thanks everyone to join us today.
World peace, we wish world peace, Rod, during this Mars retrograde period.
Yeah, definitely. No, who doesn't? We really don't want anything. Yesterday, when they announced martial law, I was like, no, not now.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Kina, and thanks everyone. Bye bye.